In this video, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how multimodal microanalysis works. It is a method of analysis for film that I developed because I was trying to figure out how to make sense of youth-produced films that I was watching at the time in a larger study and finding that there wasn't a real way to capture everything that was happening in the text, in the videos themselves. And so I looked around and found lots of different ways of analyzing it and making sense of it. And I found that the kineconic mode was the best way to go about it, but there was no real description in Byrne and Parker about how to do that. So I created multimodal microanalysis, which is just another way of using the kineconic mode to look at films. And when I studied under Andrew Byrne for a while, he said that this actually could be a good part of how to use the kineconic mode, and so I've just continued on with using it, and it is actually very useful to see how the different parts of films are working together, how image works with music, how music works with written text, and actually how all of it works together. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview of how to go about doing that in case you're interested. So there are three phases. The first phase is to do a multimodal transcription, and this is actually where a lot of the hard work comes in because you have to you choose an interval of time, say 5 seconds, 10 seconds if it's a very long piece, and at each of those moments you screen capture an image and you write down everything that's happening in terms of transition, music, written text, action, and you trace the different modes that are happening at that particular moment in time. So essentially you're stopping the film in order to do a little bit of analysis, just say here's what's happening, and then you go to the next 5 seconds and you do the same thing in the next 5 seconds and the next 5 seconds. So once you've done all of that, you have a complete tracing of what the modes are. It's a description. Phase 2 is actually to try to make sense of what's happening with all of that. So it's narrativizing what you're finding with the modes. So in that case, you would take 5 seconds of time and you'll say at this interval of time, the image is this, the music is this, the written text is this, so that you can have a way eventually of making sense of the entire thing. Phase 3 is looking over the narrative, knowing what you know, and making the patterns, figuring out how all of those modes are working together. So for instance, you might find that image is the functional mode, that image is the mode that is most prevalent, that the filmmaker does not rely on music, does not rely on voiceover, does not have much dialogue, but that image is primary. So you would talk about that and you could trace it because you've done all of the work of looking at time interval by time interval and all of the modes within that to see what's happening. So by the time you get to phase 3, you know that film inside and out. You know all of the modes and how everything is operating, so you can find the patterns, the modal patterns that are working through it. And that is multimodal microanalysis.